Hello and welcome to Vadi's Tech Space. I'm Vadi and today we will explore Azure Virtual Network Gateway with a special focus on site-to-site VPN. This allows you to securely connect your on-premise network to Azure, ensuring safe and seamless communication between both the environments. So let's get started. Before we go to Azure portal and start creating the resources, let's take a look at few things. So here, let's say we have an on-premise data center, a site from where employees are accessing Azure resources. So the how do we access the resource is it is accessed via a public internet, public IP or a fully qualified domain name. So is this a secure way of accessing? No. So just imagine what if we had a secure tunnel using which we can access these resources. So instead of sending your sensitive information through crowded or unsafe street, which is a public internet, you imagine you had a secure private tunnel connecting your on-premise site directly to the Azure. So this tunnel that is invisible to others, making sure only you can access it and all data traveling through it is protected from tampering. So this is exactly what VPN gateway provides. So it provides a secure encrypted tunnel over the internet, ensuring your data is both safe and efficiently routed between your on-premise and Azure resources. So let's reimagine what happens when we implement Azure VPN gateway. We have the on-premise site. Employees are accessing the Azure resources. Here we have in this network, we have deployed a virtual network gateway. Now what this does is that there will be an IPSec tunnel in between. And now if on-premise site wants to access Azure resources, it will access over its IP and it reaches over its public router IP, it reaches the IPsec tunnel. From the IPsec tunnel, it will hand over the packet to the gateway public IP, which will internally go to the virtual gateway and ultimately to the resources. Now, here again, I'm calling it as a public IP here. See, IPsec tunnel traverses the also traverses the public internet, but it is secured. But it is secured through strong encryption and security protocols. However, here is how the security is ensured. So it is encryption, right? IPsec encrypts the data that passes through the tunnel and makes it unreadable to anyone trying to read it over public internet. So it uses a strong encryption algorithms to make sure that even if the data is intercepted, it cannot be deciphered. So it also ensures that the only authorized devices, in this case your on-premise and the Azure environment, can establish a connection through minimal with mutual authentication here. So it uses some pre-shared keys or certificates to authenticate the both sides of the tunnel. Additionally, an integrity check is also made using hashing algorithms and used to confirm that the data has not been tampered during the transmission. So this is how, even if it is on the public IP, it is safe. So this is how the flow looks like, right? On-premise site initiates a connection to the Azure resources. The connection is established via an encrypted IPsec tunnel. The encrypted traffic is handed over to the VPN gateway. The gateway routes the traffic to the appropriate Azure resources. So the key components in site-to-site VPN are a the first one is a virtual network gateway. This is a Azure VPN gateway that connects your Azure virtual network to the on-premise network. It establishes a encrypted tunnel over the internet. Now, so second one is a local network gateway. and this is responsible for configuring the on-premise public IP and the address space here. So it represents the on-premise network. Finally, the component which connects the virtual network gateway and the local network gateway is your connection. So this is a link between the gateway and the local network gateway. So it defines a connection type site to site, and all the encryption parameters are part of this resource setup, connection setup. So now now that I cannot use the on-premise data center here for the demo, so what I'll be doing is that I'm going to set up in on-premise environment in the Azure itself. So in the UK South, I'm going to create a virtual network, and within the virtual network, I'm going to install a virtual machine, and this will be completely isolated so that no isolated without any network peering or any connectivity. And so this one next will be my Azure environment setup. So I'll be setting up in Australia Central, and I will here in this region, I'm going to set up the virtual network. I'm going to deploy a virtual machine, and I'm going to, of course, deploy a virtual network gateway and all the other components. So now let's get started with the lab. Let's go to Azure portal and start creating the on-premise environment. So I'm going to create a new resource. It will be a virtual network, and create virtual network. Now I'm going to create a address space as on-premise, and I'll give it the virtual network name as on-prem VNet, and this will be in UK. Oh boy. UK South. Click on next. I'm going to leave this as is. Here I'm going to change it to 192.168.0.0.16. Okay. So I'm going to leave this as is. So this will be my on-premise network address range. Let it run the validation. Create. So now this should be pretty quick. So once the virtual network is created, we will go ahead and create a virtual machine. Now we are good with this. Let's go here and say virtual machines. I'm going to create one. Okay, I have a on-premise resource group. I'm going to say this is on-prem VM1 UK South. I don't need this. My okay, I'm going to Windows 2022 server is what I'm going to, and B2MS is what the size I'm going to pick. I'm going to give my username and password. Okay, and here, yeah, I'm going to expose it as this is a test. I'm going to expose it for the world. So, yeah, I'm going to go click on next. Now, here, if you see, we have an on-prem virtual network created. I'm going to select subnet is created here. So I'm going to select that, and yeah, NSJ is basic. No, move on. Next, 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 and create. Okay. All right. So this is my on-premise setup. Now, while this is getting created, let me go to the another window and start setting up the Azure environment. So here I'm going to click on next. At this time, we are going to create the virtual network while creating the VM itself. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say um, AZ environment. All right, and I'm going to give the machine name as AZVNet01 and it will be in Australia Central. So media availability zone, Australia Central. Okay, and then a B2. I'm going to give my admin username and password. All right, and here as I'll be deploying a sample application, so I'm opening AT to the world. I'm going to click on next. I'm going to click on next, and here let's create a new. I'm saying bnet underscore Azure in this environment, and I'm going to leave it 10.0.0.0.16. Default is fine. Now I'm going to go next, 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 and create. Once the validation is completed. Now let's go here and see while this Azure virtual machine is getting created. Let's go back to our on-premise virtual machine and check if everything looks okay. So yeah, this is a private IP. This is the public IP. Okay. So what we are going to do here is that let's go ahead and remote into this machine. Okay. All right. I'm going to say give my admin username and password. Yes. Okay. All right. While this is getting warmed up, let's go and see what this guy is doing. Okay. Looks like we are almost there. So, which is good. Now, let's go back to the machine here. Okay. All right. All right. So, okay. Let the server manager get loaded here. So here in on this server, we have to install few roles in order to mimic the router configuration which the network administrators do on the on-premise data center. So we will do that, but before that, we will go to the Azure network. Now, the Azure Virtual Machine environment is also set up. So now both the environments have been set up. If you go here, uh, let's go to the on-premise resource group. In the on-premise resource group, which is in UK South, I have a VM and a VNet. So this is isolated. Now I have another resource group here, wherein let's go to the virtual machines here first, and from here let's go to the Azure environment. So this is another Azure environment which is located in Azure Australia Central, and here I have a virtual network and the Azure VM. Now let's go to the on-premise virtual machine server and install few roles. Now let's create a virtual network gateway here. Okay, I'm going to, you can search virtual network gateway, or you can go through create a new resource and search for virtual network gateway. And here from Microsoft Virtual Network Gateway, click on Virtual Network Gateway. Here, uh, this is in Australia Central. Okay, so once I select a virtual network, my resource group will be populated because the network gateway is uh, installed, deployed within a virtual network. So which reminds me, I need to go to my virtual network and create a gateway subnet. This is a dedicated subnet used by VPN, Virtual Network Gateway. So I'm going to go to the subnets, and here I have a gateway subnet. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to leave everything as is, and I'm going to click on add. So this is important that we have that, otherwise it's going to error out here in while creating the virtual network gateway. So we are good with this. So let me go ahead and reload the page here. Okay, so that my newly created subnet gets reflected in this page. Okay, so I'm going to select my network here. Once I select my network, my resource group get populated. The region is Australia Central. I'm going to give VNG uh, VNG VPN. Okay, I'm going to say VNG Virtual Network Gateway VPN here, and yeah, I'll go with one. These are the various queues which, based on this, the number of connections and the bandwidth will change based on the queue you select. Okay, and now the gateway type is VPN, is what I'm going to select. And here I'm going to say yes, I want to create a public IP, of course, right? So I'm going to say PIP for virtual network gateway. This is one. Now, the second IP address, right? Here, I don't want the second IP address here. So that is because enable active mode is enabled here. So that is the reason it's going to ask, is asking for the second public IP address. This is used for high availability and some resilience. So I'm going to disable this. Okay, so one public IP is enough for this demo. Okay, and no configure BGP, no disabled, keyboard disabled. So let's go ahead and create this. This will take a while. take some time to get created. So let's move on to the next set of configurations. Let's go to home, and in the click on create a resource, select for local network gateway, from Microsoft. Yes, create, and I'm going to put it in AZ environment. Australia Central is fine. I'm going to say local network LNG on premise and IP address. So this IP address here usually will be the on-premise data center router IP. So as our on-premise data center is also on Azure with one VM. So what we are going to do is that we are going to go to the virtual machine and pick the on go to the on-premise virtual machine, and we will take the IP address of this public IP address of this VM, and we are going to paste it here. Now we also need to give the address range of the on-premise data center. So if for this, what we are going to do is that we are going to go to the on-premise VNet. In the on-premise VNet, our address space is this. So this is the address space from which the request would come. So I'm going to click on next. No, we are not configuring any BGP here. So next, and create. So now what we have done so far is that our virtual network gateway is getting created here. Okay, and this is the component number one. This is updating. It will take some time. And the second one is we have created a local network gateway here. So now once the virtual network gateway gets created, we will go ahead and create the connection. Till then, we will go ahead with the next set of configuration. Now, let's go to home. I have the Azure VNet here. So I'm going to take the public IP, and what we are going to do now is that we're going to install IIS in the Azure server. We'll install the web server role and create a sample page there. Okay, so it's getting loaded. All right, so let's go ahead and see the status of the VPN gateway while the machine is getting warmed up. It's updating still, so I'm going to go here to my, okay, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and add a role here. Next, next, next. I'm going to click on web server, add features, next, 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 install. So while this is getting installed, what we are going to do is that we will go to the file explorer here, and inetpub folder is created. So here I'm going to create a index.html, and in the index.html I'm going to add a simple message, hello from Azure VM. Okay, so now we are good with this. Once this installation is completed, we are going to try it on this local machine and see if this is working. I'm going to click on Edge browser. Okay. Installation succeeded. All good. I want to say http//localhost. Yes. So this is all good. All right. So let's go ahead with the next set of configuration. Okay. So let's go to the Virtual Network Gateway, and this is ready. So now that this is ready, we have the Virtual Network Gateway ready. We have the Local Network Gateway ready. We have the virtual machine in Azure environment where we hosted a sample page. Now, what we are going to do is that we are going to create a connection object where we'll connect the virtual network gateway and the local network gateway. Okay, I'm going to click on new resource. I'm going to say connection. So under connection, Microsoft, I want to say create. Here, I'll take the Azure environment itself. So there are various connection types. You can connect uh, VNet to VNet as well. So here I'm going to select site to site, and the name is okay. Let's say connection AC to on-prem. All right, I'm going to leave it as Azure Central. So I need to choose a virtual network gateway here. This is the virtual network gateway which we have created, and the local network gateway here. The PSK, this is the key which we need to uh, configure on the on-premise side. So I'm going to, for this demo, I'm going to keep it a very simple uh, key here. This is my key. Oh God. But this is a test. Okay, so IK protocol 2 is fine. Now BGP, everything looks good. Next, create and create. Now, this is my connection resource. Okay, now once this connection resource is created, obviously the status will be as not connected because we need to do some configuration on the on-premise side. Let's say in if you in a real life scenario, this is what it happens, right? We go ahead and we create the virtual network gateway, the local network gateway, the connection and all, and then we are going to pass the VPN IP address, public IP address, and the shared key to the on-premise network administrator to configure it on at their end. So now that's what we are going to do now in my next step. Let's go to the connection. Okay, the connection resource is created here, and the status is unknown or not connected. All right, and we can go to the virtual network gateway here, and in the virtual network gateway under settings you can go to the connections, and here the status is unknown. So now let's go to the on-prem virtual machine and do some configurations there. Okay, so I have already connected to this VM 30.46. Now I'm going to click on roles and features. Next, role based yes. Next, here I'm going to select remote access. I'm going to click on next. I'm going to click on next. One second. All right. I'm going to click on next, next. Here I'm going to click on direct access and routing both. Next, 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 install. So we will wait for this to complete here. So the installation is completed here. Let's go to routing and remote access. Here, let's click on my server name, click on configure, click on next. I'm going to say custom configuration. I'm going to say demand dial connections and VPN access. I'm going to click on next. So this is what the network administrator will be doing on the router of on-premise to give access to the Azure resources here, gateway. So I'm going to click on finish here. So yes, start the service. So the service is getting started. Let's wait for this to start. Yes, it is there. So I'm going to go on the network interfaces, right click on this, click on demand dial and click on next. I'm going to say this is, let's say this is my AZ router, Azure router and VPN, yes, IKE2. The host name, the host IP address is our VPN IP address here. So the VPN gateway, this is the public IP of the VPN. So I'm going to take this IP and I'm going to enter the IP address here. Oh, let me go here and copy it. Let's go back. This is the IP address. Route IP is fine. I need to give the address range. So my address range here is that if I go to my virtual machines and Azure VNet, so here my VNet address space is in CADR notation 10.0.0.0.16. So now we have to give it here 10.0.0.0, and here because it is 16, so we will leave this to octet 0. All right, and the matrix is instead. So I'm going to click on next. I'll leave this. Click on finish. So now I have done this. I will go to the browser and keep it ready here. I want to access the IP address here. I need to access the page over IP address. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to say HTTP. Oops, sorry. This is not the on-prem VM we are trying, right? So we are trying with the Azure VNet. I'm sorry about that. So first let me access it with the public IP. So with the public IP, yeah, hello from the Azure VM. Now let me take the private IP and try it using private IP. So obviously you'll not get that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on properties here. This is the IP address. In the security, you remember we gave a pre-shared key, and the pre-shared key was pretty simple, right, for testing. I'm going to click on OK, and yeah, it is spinning. Let it spin. I'm going to go and right click on this AZ router and say connect. So it is connected now, and once it is connected, as you see, uh, I am able to access the Azure VM site on a private IP address. If you come back here, right, if you go to the Virtual Network Gateway, you should be able to see under connection the status as not it'll take little time to update the status, but you will see this as connected. If this is connected, only then you'll be able to access it. Otherwise, you'll not be able to access it. So this is how you create a IPSec tunnel and connect on-premise and Azure environment securely. If you found this video helpful, please feel free to give it a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.